Who truly controls the world? Is it the faces we recognize, those constantly flashing before our eyes on screens and pages? The CEO flaunted on magazine covers, the politicians caught shaking hands under bright lights. They are visible because they must be, but the true engines of power operate quietly, deliberately, beyond the glare. They work without spectacle, without applause. The most formidable force in any room is often not the one shouting the loudest or taking the stage. It's the one who remains unseen, unaccounted for, a presence defined by absence. This figure is the shadow we cannot touch, the silent architect of reality. To reveal oneself is to invite vulnerability, exposure, and attack. Real power thrives in invisibility. Consider this: visibility invites scrutiny. It demands performance, explanation, and defense. The spotlight is a double-edged sword. While it may grant influence, it equally hands over the weapon of public judgment. The truly powerful know this. They cultivate distance and detachment. Their influence flows through others, hidden, protected. The rulers behind the curtain do not seek recognition or praise. Instead, they carefully orchestrate events from the background, pulling strings that shape nations, industries, and ideologies. These invisible actors do not appear on talk shows or in headlines. Their names are often unknown, their faces unseen, and that anonymity is their greatest weapon. Why does absence grant such power? Because it fosters mystery and uncertainty breeds fear. People fear what they cannot grasp or predict. When you are unseen, your enemies cannot measure your strength or intentions. They are left to guess, speculate, and sometimes to exaggerate your influence into something far larger and more terrifying than reality. Contrast this with those who are constantly visible. Familiarity breeds predictability. When the public knows your face, your voice, your mannerisms, they also know your weaknesses, your mistakes, your fears. Exposure shrinks power. It humanizes the once formidable. Absence, however, cultivates myth. It transforms a person into a symbol, an enigma, a looming force in the collective imagination. When you reveal yourself sparingly, every appearance commands attention and carries weight. Scarcity creates value. People crave what they cannot have and respect what they must strive to understand. This strategic silence is not retreat. It is preparation. Like a sharpened blade waiting for the perfect moment to strike, absence conserves energy and amplifies impact. The visible figure wastes themselves through constant display. The master conserves, waits, and moves only when the timing is flawless. Visibility feeds the ego, but it also feeds the opposition. Every word spoken in public, every gesture seen, becomes data to analyze, evidence to weaponize. History is full of leaders undone by their own eagerness to be seen, their need for adoration. Crowds can be fickle. What cheers today can jeer tomorrow. Distance creates control. The more accessible you are, the more vulnerable. When others understand your motives, desires, and fears, they gain leverage. The true strategist places others in the limelight, proxies, figureheads, decoys, while remaining shielded in shadow. These public faces take the heat. They absorb praise and blame alike, shielding the hidden power from the storm. The CEO smiling at the press conference may be replaced, but the silent shareholder controlling from behind the scenes endures. The politician speaking to cameras may be voted out, but the strategist shaping narratives remains untouched. Power does not seek recognition. It seeks obedience, and nothing enforces obedience like invisibility. An untouchable force no one can strike or corner. The master's influence spreads silently, carried by others who speak for them. The master never wastes time defending or justifying. Instead, they shape perceptions indirectly, ensuring the world believes exactly what they want. Control does not require a microphone. It requires a network, a system, a labyrinth where influence flows unseen. Public statements and social media outbursts are tools for those desperate for attention. The truly ruthless avoid these traps, knowing that speaking publicly chains them to a narrative they cannot escape. The greatest leaders of history understood this. Ancient rulers ruled through intermediaries, priests, poets, advisors, spies, who carried their will without exposing their person. The king's image was a carefully crafted myth, larger than life, distant and untouchable. Today, the same rules apply. The billionaire funds media without ever appearing. The strategist engineers outcomes without standing at the podium. Industries are reshaped by shadowy figures whose names never grace headlines. Their influence is diffused, their identity concealed. This invisibility creates plausible deniability. When a plan fails, the public figure falls, the scapegoat sacrificed. Meanwhile, the true architect quietly recalibrates, poised for the next move. This layered protection preserves power through storms. Fear multiplies in the unknown. People do not fear what they can confront. They fear the unseen forces manipulating their reality. When you are invisible, your reach appears limitless. Allies and enemies alike cannot define your boundaries. This ambiguity breeds paralysis and deference. Shaping reality from the shadows also means total flexibility. Public figures are bound by their words and promises. The hidden master remains free to shift alliances, abandon plans, and reinvent strategies without accountability. This freedom is power. The master does not compete in the arena. They orchestrate the game. Every voice becomes a tool, every player a pawn. Control lies not in speaking, but in deciding who speaks and what they say. The loudest voice rarely holds the reins. Often, it echoes the whisper of an unseen hand. Fame is a trap. It binds, exposes, and limits. The true master rejects the spotlight, recognizing that power lives in absence. They build networks of proxies, shields, and puppet, each absorbing attention and responsibility, while the core remains untouchable. Responsibility flows outward, control concentrates inward. When scandal erupts, the public sees the scapegoat fall, not the hidden puppeteer. This armored system ensures survival. If one proxy fails, another rises. Division among the proxies prevents unity and rebellion. These proxies are more than shields. They are weapons. They infiltrate rival camps, sow confusion, spread disinformation, and fracture opposition. From behind the scenes, the master commands without appearing. The master never ties themselves to a single figure. Loyalty is fickle. Circumstances change. They maintain a web of influence, each strand reinforcing the whole. This redundancy secures their position through decades, despite the rise and fall of public faces. Look at any complex system, governments, corporations, criminal empires. The visible leaders are often masks, expendable and temporary. The true power lies in those who remain silent but omnipresent, orchestrating outcomes beyond sight. This is the cold calculus of strategy. Divide responsibility, distribute visibility, concentrate power. The master is always above the fray, pulling strings that decide winners and losers, while the crowd watches the puppets dance. True power is not possessed, it is designed. It is not worn like a crown, but embedded within systems. The master leads not by presence, but by shaping perception, controlling narratives and governing through proxies. The throne in the spotlight is a prison. It demands performance and exposes vulnerability. The master avoids this trap, choosing a deeper form of leadership that thrives in shadows, behind institutions, within networks. The visible leader must explain, reassure, perform, every word a chain. The unseen architect is free, unbound by image or expectation. This freedom is their strength and their danger. Influence without identity is invincible. When no one can name you, target you, or predict your moves, you become a force of nature. Your absence disperses your presence so completely that isolation becomes impossible. The master embeds intent invisibly through laws, ideas, and individuals, while the world debates symptoms. Control transcends commands. It becomes the environment itself. People move as if by choice, yet are guided by unseen design. History's wisest wielders of power mastered this art of strategic absence. They ruled without raising voices, casting final votes behind closed doors, funding wars and faith quietly, shaping realities without direct involvement. Faces fade, names are forgotten, but the silent force remains, unchanged, resilient, enduring. Absence is immunity. When public figures falter, apologize, or fall, the invisible hand moves on, drafting the next scene. Invisibility breeds strategic terror. Fear grows where there is no address. Rumors and legends fill the gaps, amplifying a mystique that protects and magnifies influence. The less you speak, the more your silence resonates. This mindset rejects fame and embraces influence as architecture. The master builds systems, installs proxies, then steps back, letting others absorb praise and blame. When the moment is right, the master pivots, always just out of reach, always one step ahead. In any story, the most powerful figure is rarely the one in the spotlight. It is the one whose presence bends reality without being named or seen. If this glimpse into the art of hidden power stirred something within you, a hunger for silent strength and unseen strategy, don't just watch from the sidelines, step closer, learn what few understand. In a world drowning in noise, those who listen, watch, and wait are the ones who truly rule. The hidden hand's greatest strength lies in its invisibility, but invisibility itself is not a passive condition. It is an active choice, a form of mastery that demands discipline, patience, and foresight. To withdraw from the spotlight is not to disappear, it is to become a force that moves unnoticed, shaping realities with a quiet inevitability that leaves no room for resistance. This strategic retreat is paradoxical. The less you are seen, the more you are feared. Absence magnifies presence by creating gaps in understanding, and in those gaps, imagination runs wild. People fill voids with assumptions, often inflating your power to mythic proportions. This phenomenon is not accidental. It is cultivated by the silent operator who knows that perception is more potent than fact. To wield such power requires a delicate balance. Too much invisibility, and you risk irrelevance. Too much exposure, and you invite attack. The master navigates this tension with an almost surgical precision. They understand the rhythm of attention, when to vanish, when to appear, and how to control the narrative from the shadows so that the public never fully grasps the extent of their influence. Think of it like a dance with the world's gaze, a dance where the master leads without ever stepping fully into the light. They let others take the stage, but the choreography is theirs alone. The master's presence is felt in every movement, every decision, every whispered rumor, yet their body remains unseen. This invisibility also allows for adaptability. In a world that is volatile and unpredictable, being tied to a fixed public image is a liability. Public figures must answer to their past words and actions, often shackled by the expectations of their audience. The unseen master, however, has no public record. They can shift alliances, change strategies, and reinvent themselves without contradiction or scandal. This freedom to evolve is power in its purest form. It is power unburdened by legacy or identity, flowing like water, taking the shape of whatever container best serves its purpose. The master understands that true influence is not about controlling moments, but about shaping the currents beneath them. Moreover, the network of proxies, shields, and puppets is not merely defensive. It is a strategic web designed for control and expansion. Each proxy is both a protector and a weapon, a piece in a larger game of chess where the master always thinks several moves ahead. By keeping these figures in competition and dependency, the master prevents unity among those who might otherwise challenge their authority. This system creates a dynamic of constant tension below the surface. The proxies fight for favor, jostle for influence, and absorb the heat of public scrutiny, while the master remains insulated. This division of responsibility is the cornerstone of sustainable power. It is a system designed to survive upheaval, scandal, and betrayal. The master's control extends beyond immediate events. They engineer the very environment in which decisions are made and choices are offered. Influence becomes a condition rather than an act, a subtle shaping of reality that guides behavior without force or coercion. People move as if freely, but their movements are choreographed within invisible boundaries. This is the highest form of control, freedom choreographed to serve the master's ends. It is an art that transcends commands and orders, weaving influence into the fabric of society itself. When power becomes environmental, it is near impossible to resist because resistance feels like rebellion against reality. Throughout history, the wisest wielders of power understood this principle. The rulers who built vast empires rarely showed themselves directly to the common people. Instead, they governed through myth, ritual, and intermediaries, creating a symbolic presence that was far greater than any mortal man. Their power was not personal, it was institutional. It was embedded in systems, laws, customs, and networks that endured beyond any individual lifespan. This kind of power is durable and resilient because it is impersonal and diffused. Today, the same principles hold true. The billionaire who shapes global markets does so through a network of investments, advisors, and media influence rather than personal appearances. The strategist who sways elections remains behind the scenes, anonymous and untraceable. The industry titan remakes entire sectors without ever granting an interview. Their fingerprints are everywhere, yet their hands remain hidden. This absence is not weakness, it is immunity. When public figures fall, apologize, or resign, the invisible architect is already planning the next move. The public demands accountability, but the master never offers a target. This creates a powerful illusion of control for the masses. They see the surface chaos, the resignations, scandals, and upheavals, and believe that justice is served. Meanwhile, the true force behind the scenes recalibrates in silence, untouched and undeterred. Invisibility also amplifies fear. People fear what they cannot locate or understand. When influence has no face or address, it becomes mythic, a shadow looming over every decision, every event, every crisis. Rumors and legends fill the gaps, often enhancing the master's reputation far beyond their actual reach. The master's silence is a language all its own, a language of power that communicates strength without words. The less you speak, the more your silence speaks. People project omniscience, cunning, and inevitability onto the unseen figure, whether these qualities are deserved or not. This perception of power becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Enemies hesitate, unsure when or if the master will strike. Allies defer, seeking favor from a figure whose intentions are mysterious. The master's influence grows not just through action, but through the strategic use of absence and uncertainty. The master can betray alliances without being branded a traitor. They can shift ideologies without accusations of hypocrisy. They remain unbound by the expectations and limitations that bind those who seek public favor. This freedom makes them unpredictable, untouchable, and immensely dangerous. It is a mindset, one that rejects fame as a goal and embraces influence as an architecture. The master builds institutions, networks, and narratives, then steps back. They let others become the face, absorbing attention, praise, and hatred alike. When the moment calls, they pivot, always just out of reach. In every great story of power, the most dangerous figure is rarely the one in the spotlight. It is the one whose presence bends reality without being seen or named. If this vision of power resonates with a deeper part of you, a part that craves silent strength and strategic mastery, then do not remain a passive observer. Step closer, learn what few ever understand. In a world overwhelmed by noise, those who listen, watch, and wait are the ones who truly rule.